That was very close.
I have in my head the undisclosed
That was
location.
very close.
Small.
It's not small. It's just that this corner is small. I mean, it's definitely smaller than a real house, but it's funny. We come down here and we think, and I always think, there's so much I don't need up in that other house. I mean, like just shit that I've collected that I never touch. I don't miss any of it, you know?
That happens. So I put the stream out. I'll wait for the buffer and all that to catch up and then see if anybody can help with the sound or let us know. I'm going to get up and adjust the webcam. Alright, I am back at my desk. Alright, so Lori can see you and not me. That's expected. Okay, so let's see if I can add a webcam to the broadcast. Show me devices. There we go. So many webcams. Not that webcam. Show me devices.
Show me the money. Are we passing the Lori Gowan test?
Well, she can see you, so that it depends on what her test. So I have to have that Logitech thing up for you to see me, but I think that's taking all of my cameras. Like I think that's. And so the other problem that I have is I have many webcams, which now like I should be selling these things on eBay or something. But there's no way to name them, so they all show up as the same name because they're the same model.
Nice.
So I can't tell which one I'm picking.
Plug and play.
Okay, so that works. So I can show you guys my backyard.
Let's see.
Well, you'll have to watch the stream.
I don't need to see your backyard.
Okay, so that works. Yeah, so that's Wade's house back there. But it won't let me add any of the. Okay, so that's that one. Device in use. All right. So now we're going to try that one. Device not available. I suppose that's different than device not available. So let's try. Oh, this would be good. If this works, I'll be very excited. Hey! Well, that's the question, Fred. If just seeing Mark is better or worse than seeing me. Okay, so the Logitech stuff does let me split the camera. So let me take my text overlay off since I can't overlay you as well right now. Now, the delicate art of sizing and positioning. So, the other thing, so Mark, do you have Slack installed anywhere?
I do.
So we have a Slack channel.
Let's see. I haven't started it in a long time because we use Teams.
We do, and a damn fine product Teams is.
The show brought to you by not Slack.
Yeah, by the product, not Slack. And boy, not Zoom, huh? Wow, those guys are having the worst week ever.
There's Todd Clint's Slack team. Is that the one you're talking about?
That's the one.
I see people.
Well, they're talking about you is the reason I bring it up. Okay, so Lori, the video looks good. I've got it. There you go now. Okay, so I'm using my Yeti. I'm going to tap the Yeti. Everybody's favorite tap the Yeti. Can you guys confirm that that is the audio you're getting?
Yeti tap.
Tapping the Yeti. So we got the video down. Now the audio is weird because to get my audio and your audio, we have to get system audio and weird things. No tap. Good to know. Okay. So
I'll stop typing.
I'm looking at the settings. So that does say there's a webcam. Okay. So Lori, I have changed the audio settings. Tapping the Yeti. 1, 2, 3.
Your video is about half a second behind your taps.
I'm surprised that any of it worked, honestly, but that's okay. So Lori, you are the arbiter of this. Is the video and audio as good as we can expect it to be? Given the
I can duck down if it helps.
Given the technical, intellectual, and aesthetic limitations that are inherent to this this whole production. No dry coughs, Mark. Can't do that.
Yeah, well.
I'm not taking any risks. Okay, so I think we're good then. You got the notes up. All right.
You.
All right, one final tweet.
There's the notes over here.
And notes everywhere. I got tagged in somebody's tweet.
I'm gonna make sure not to say anything intelligent until you tell me we're starting.
I didn't realize that was an option. Are you going to say something intelligent? That's awesome.
It shouldn't be much of a challenge.
I had no idea. All right, Lori. There's somebody in the YouTube chat. Do you want to wrangle him and see if you can get him into Slack for me?
I'm sorry. What?
That was
talking
Lori.
to me. I got too many things going on here, man.
Well, I can help you out with some of it. Don't respond to anything if anybody is asking for Lori. I don't know if that helps any. But
that helps a lot.
Yeah, I don't. That's a general rule that I follow also. Okay. So join your Mark. And what's that URL? And there we go.
11:05, Todd.
Yes. The fact that we're only 5 minutes late. Normally, I'd make Shane do this, but then he bailed on me. All right. Okay, Lori. Actually, I got to get the notes out here so I can see them. We'll let you. Now's a bad time to have seasonal allergies. Holy cow. All right, so video cue for me. Lori, you got the time down.
3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Todd. We'll call it Mark and Todd's Cloudy Podcast this morning. This is podcast number 454, recorded live Wednesday, April 8th, 2020. I, of course, was your host, Todd Clint. And joining me today, and I'll see if I point in the right direction. Would you like to introduce yourself, Mark?
I'm Mark Anderson. I work with Todd at Praxis Consulting, and usually we're just like talking to each other on Teams, so that it's fun when we can do it with people watching.
Now we have people eavesdropping, so we'll have to be careful who we talk bad about, because they might be listening. So we have to be very careful with that.
If this is being recorded, we got to be even more careful.
Oh, and goodness. It is. Well, and I assume, the Chinese and the Russians are recording everything all the time. So
yeah.
Yes, that's always good. So for production notes, I'm a couple behind. I'm real close, though. I'll put 452 is just ready to be published, and then I'll knock 453 out today, so I should be pretty caught up. Mark, you haven't been involved in all of that drama, but I have gotten behind and not gotten everything out. But we'll get that caught up. So I say that because as we talk about future events, there's the running joke that, it's going to be 6 months before this comes out. So we got this thing in June. Don't worry about talking about that. The other production note that I want to mention is a long-standing issue that I've had is my SimPraxis sign over my shoulder, or not my SimPraxis, my SysKit sign over my shoulder. And since I'm half screen, you can't see it as well. But I did get it put up today. I think I have it put up in a way where it won't fall down because it has actually jumped off of the wall during a podcast before. Frightened me terribly. And I think it's mostly level. You can't see off screen here off camera. I've got a level. I think it's level. The camera's level. So I think I've got that all figured out now. I think it's all done. And I did that between when you and I talked this morning, Mark, and between this, I did all that, and so it's looking good. So
it looks better than that old piece of paper you used to have.
Yes, that old piece of paper that I put up like 4 years ago that was just a placeholder for where I put the real sign that I've never, and I had this up and then it fell off, but now I've got, so I got serious this time. I don't know if you guys have these little double-sided dealios here. The project that I did where I put the lights around the basement door, I used a bunch of these liberally, and then I'm like, I wonder what else I can stick to what. So I stuck my cats together and all kinds of stuff, and then I'm like, oh yeah, there's that SysKit sign. I can do that. So highly recommend these things. So, on to topics. Man, is there anything even in the news these days to talk about, Mark? Is it...
Not really. I mean, it's sort of business as usual as far as I understand it.
That's been pretty ho-hum. Just, don't know what to expect to turn the news on. There is that end of the world thing happening, but that's been going on for a couple of weeks now. Yeah, I'm over that now.
I was talking to our colleague Emily this morning, and it's sort of like all rules are off on some level, right? Anything that you feel is normal is not that anymore, and whatever. But at the same time, we just keep doing the stuff we usually do, right? We're still working, you and I.
Yeah.
We're actually let me frame that in that we're really lucky that we're still working. We have a job where we get to work from home anyway, so it's not a big deal. But we're still doing podcasts, we're still doing work, we're still hanging out with our families. It's just all different.
It is. It's like normal, but just skewed like 5 degrees off, and that's been a weird thing. One of the things I want to talk about today is, now everybody is, a podcaster. If you watch the regular news, I don't know how it is in your area. Mark's in an undisclosed location, so we can't refer to the actual location. But like all of our local news, they're doing it from home. And I really feel, so these are professionals, right? The people around here that's been the same news people for 10, 15, 20 years, whatever. They are professionals in this. And watching them stumble and make the same mistakes that you and I make when we do video calls and podcasts, it warms my heart that it's not just me being an idiot, that there's some difficulty to that. But the other thing that's been really odd for me is now, depending on where you're at and what the rules are, most everybody here has to work from home now. Whereas a month ago, well, maybe a month and a half ago now, that was just not even thought about, So there was a time here 4 or 5 weeks ago where my wife's company, which is based here in Ames but is worldwide, said to all of its 1,400 employees, starting the day after tomorrow, the doors are shut. Figure out how to work from home in the next 24 hours. and it's been really weird. But like you said, for you and I, it's not a big deal. So I was talking to one of my neighbors last night, and they're like, "Oh, this is crazy. I got to work from home, and you got to figure all that out, and my job's all different, and I don't know how to do my job." And I'm like, "My job has not changed at all, except now I've got more people in my office."
Yeah, I mean, I think we're very lucky in that we have a job that is sort of just flows right into this,
Yeah.
and we're sort of we're sort of we're the kinds of geek losers who hang out by ourselves all the time anyway. I think for a lot of people, and I feel for all the people where it's actually it's eating into their livelihood, or they're
Oh,
they don't have a place to be, or I mean, or they've caught this damn thing. So it's I think we're sort of we're very lucky to be in the
absolutely.
situation. I mean, I always want to say that, even though I say nothing has changed for us.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of things have changed.
Yeah, it's yeah. I'm fortunate. So my wife, just like again on a had to turn on a dime, and set her up here with a home office. And like you said, we're fortunate in that is possible. But I know some people who don't have a house that is that lends itself well to that. And now on top of that, now school is closed everywhere, so kids are home on top of that. And so, yeah, I'm very fortunate in that has not been as much of an issue as it could be. One person I was listening to a podcast, and they were talking about this, and they said, one of the things that they have done to make themselves sane is they have meals anywhere but the kitchen table. And the reason they do that is because their house doesn't have an office, and so this person has to work at the kitchen table. And so the last thing that he wants to do is sit at the kitchen table when he eats. And
Right.
so, yeah. Yeah, Lori put a fun thing in the chat. She and this was something her and I talked about when it came up. I saw this tweet that says, "You're not working from home. You are at home trying to work during a crisis," and that frames things a little more accurately, I think, for what's going on with most people.
Yeah.
It's so it's been funny watching the industry, or all of the industries, Jesus, everything change. One of the things that you and I have talked about, because it's impacted us directly, is how Microsoft is handling all this. And I know I'm a Microsoft fanboy. I would whack Satya Nadella's car every Saturday if we could be within 100 feet of each other. I drink all that Kool-Aid, but I think it's not unfair to say that they have really led the charge on this, and have just been exemplary in how they've handled all of this COVID-19 stuff. And so they canceling events early on. I remember when they moved the MVP Summit from in person to online. When they did it, every
Yeah.
one of us was just furious and couldn't believe that they did it. And now, as we look back, it is amazing that there was any doubt that they would have to do that.
And they've already told us that even next year, which is next March, they're going to do it virtually. So, that they're doing the long play as opposed to trying to solve problems in the short term.
Yeah,
And I think that the corollary to that is they've also kept all of these systems running while usage has gone just through. And you may have talked about this in your earlier podcast, but their usage has gone so high. And if you think about if you're still on-prem, you're dealing with some stuff that the people using Office 365 or Microsoft 365 sort of don't have to, right? I mean,
yeah,
Microsoft is balancing all of this stuff, and they're ratcheting down things like quality of video in stream or whatever. I mean, they're coming up with the high and low watermarks to keep all of those services running on their distributed network. And frankly, I think they're doing a pretty good job. I mean, you're certainly seeing some hiccups that you didn't see in other weeks,
yeah.
but you look at things like Teams usage is up. I forget the percentage, but it's hundreds of percentage higher.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I have been amazed by that as well, because yeah, again, it happened on a dime. We just didn't know, and then all of a sudden, the world ended, and everybody had to work from home in 48 hours. And yeah,
right,
Microsoft absolutely stepped up, and the other thing is they didn't have a plan for that, so they didn't say, okay, if everybody in the world has to work from home. Here are the steps that we will take to mitigate the performance issues. It's just a constant thing. Like every minute of every day, they're having to look at all these different metrics and turn dials to figure out how to keep the best situation up.
Right.
Devin in the chat room is saying that he's seen Teams 700% greater usage, so 7 times usage. And the other thing is, the way they scale, part of that is software and tweaking and all that, but part of it's hardware, and they can't do that. I mean, the tail on that is too long, and getting people in places, so they really have to be creative with what they're doing, and it has been amazing to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got to give them kudos for it, and I think, to be honest, I think a lot of other companies are doing what they can as well. I don't use AWS, I don't use some of the other options out there, but the world's still running, and we're all still watching Netflix, and just the whole load of everything has changed in ways that nobody could have predicted. You're right. This isn't. You can have disaster you have disaster preparedness on lots of levels, but some disasters you just can't predict, right?
No.
I mean, you can't predict global thermonuclear war. You can't, there are some things you just don't do, and this is certainly one of them. But I think it's all holding together pretty damn well, considering.
Yeah, it has been. Lori says she imagines Netflix streaming is way up. I can't even begin to imagine what their multiplier is like. And I don't know if they publish any of that, but I would love to see what their numbers look like. It has just been insane. And I've been talking to friends, and I've got some neighbors that are like this. They went from both of them working outside the home and their kids going to school. They got little kids about the same age as my kids, and they're fairly outdoorsy folks. They use technology in the average way, but they're not nerdy folks like me. And then again, on a dime, both of them work from home. They've got 3 kids at home, and Iowa's starting to ramp up the online learning, and their internet connection is nowhere near what it needs to be. Their home network is nowhere near it needs to be. And so my first instinct, as I'm standing at the end of their driveway shouting up at them, is to just say, hey, I would love to come in and just fix all this for you, but I can't. That's the problem. That's the thing. Trying to figure out where that's at, and helping all those different, because there's just so many bottlenecks. It is just insane.
Yeah.
A couple of things that I've noticed off the technology front is I'm starting to rock quarantine hair here. A month ago or so, when Iowa started shutting down places, they shut down hair places pretty quickly, and I needed a haircut. Like the day that happened, I should have been having a haircut, and now it's going to be September.
Yeah, it's just look at it. It's all over the place, Todd. It's like crazy stuff.
It's so our buddy Phil at Paul Mitchell, a guy that I've known forever, 10 years ago probably sent me a sample pack of Paul Mitchell stuff. And I've since got addicted to their gel and the shampoo and all that. But some of it was like that real thick shellac stuff. And that is really the only thing that works now. So I just, I sit in a chair and Jill just pastes my hair into place every morning. But I'll have hair like yours before this is all done. Not nearly as wavy and beautiful, but it'll be.
It's similar to mine maybe. But.
it's gonna be gonna be crazy how all that. And I've been my quarantine beard is coming in nicely, so that I'm letting that.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep up with like we said, we work from home anyway, so I tend to wear pants. I don't wear PJs usually anyway. I tend to get dressed and actually shave and stuff, even though I'm just sitting at home, maybe not talking to anybody for an entire day.
Yeah. No, I've had to do that. I've worked from home 10, 12 years. I forget when that happened. I have gotten dressed and put on pants every single morning. I couldn't, my mind wouldn't work well if.
I think that's one of the ways to succeed at this, is to treat it as if you're going to an office, even though your office might be 3 steps down the hallway, and so the separation between the part of your day when you're in your house and acting like you're a human being who's just living in a house, and the part of the day where you're doing your work, it's nice to sort of come up with a division there. It's a different room or a different, make sure you get dressed for work. And, it's the same stuff that you and I have been doing for a long time. I think a lot of people are sort of coming up with these little tricks or trying to come up with these little tricks now. How do you know when it's work time versus home time?
And for me, that's necessary.
Yeah.
I need that. The other funny thing that I would not have expected to come from this is the being made aware of all of the lies that I've been telling myself. And that comes from this idea of, I've got 3 little kids, and my wife and I want to give them all the opportunities they can, so they're in a lot of things. And there have just been, over the years, a bunch of times when I've told myself, I would do X if I just had more time. I would do Y if I just had more time. And here I am, just staring nothing but an abundance of time in the face and going, maybe it wasn't the time that was the problem. Maybe I just suck. Maybe I just...
Well, I think, to be fair, I think that there are things taking our attention now that we wouldn't normally have to worry about. I know I'm watching a lot more TV news. I'm, on my phone reading stuff on, articles about what's going on and checking the stats and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily do that. So it's taking a chunk of our time that we might, in a normal situation, use for other stuff. But I think you're right. You do suck. So.
Yep, it's been weird. So I've been trying to, as I've been sitting around trying to figure out what to do with my time and all that, I've tried not to procrastinate some of the stuff. So I've worked on some stuff around the house and things like that. But it is just, I will never be able to use that phrase, well, I would do that if I just had the time, because now I have nothing but time, and some of those things aren't getting done. It's been funny. It just changes perspectives on so many things. Yeah, crazy. I've talked to neighbors in the last week that I've not talked to in years, because we're just standing outside. I live not in my front but out the back. There's a cul-de-sac behind us, and last night the cul-de-sac had a talent show. So we all set our chairs up, a responsible distance apart, and one girl played the violin, and one girl sang, and one mom was doing cartwheels and gymnastics and stuff. We've never done that.
That's
I've
cool.
lived here 4 years. Nobody's ever done that.
And we've seen talk on Twitter, the two of us, things like parades for teachers, or running the fire engine around the neighborhood, or whatever. I think people are trying to find ways to spread some sort of joy and camaraderie and community throughout this thing, and there are lots of sort of fascinating things that people are doing that they normally don't do.
Yep, it's been interesting. So I'm curious what things will look like once this is mostly blown over. What normal will be a year from now.
Right. What lasting changes there will be. I think things in our work world. I think that's one of my big questions. Is this remote work thing? Is this the event that pushes remote work into being a real thing? A normal way of working. Will companies have learned that they can actually trust employees to do their work when they can't be in the office? Yeah. I don't know the answer, and I don't know how other people are getting their work done, or whether they're getting their work done. I know that we go to the grocery store, there's actually food there, so somebody's working pretty darn hard on that kind of stuff. But we won't know until we come out the other end how more like knowledge worker kind of work has been going on. People who don't necessarily make any widgets. The stuff that we make isn't visible in a sense.
Yeah, I read some stuff about that, and people were postulating what impact that could have on real estate. If you look through, Western civilization, working in the town and then working in suburbs and working in town, that kind of, expands and contracts. And so the question is, to your point, how many companies who would have never dreamed of letting employees work from home are going to find out that it's a workable solution? And how many small offices are going to go away? How many, office spaces in downtown Boston that was an office for 10 people, those 10 people work from home for 2 months, and the companies are like, hey, we maybe could save some money by not renting the space out.
But then, and you're right, then you have the other side of that is, okay, now we have this need to work in our houses, and you and I are already set up. You've got your setup, and I've got my undisclosed location set up. But people will have to rethink how they use their house.
Yeah.
if this does take off, or maybe it's a couple days a week, or maybe maybe the impact will be partial, or maybe it will be not at all. But the way people think about their living space versus their workspace in their house will probably have changed.
Yeah, I think
that desk that everyone has in their kitchen, a lot of houses have a desk in the kitchen
Yep.
from way back in the old days, right?
Yep.
And nobody ever used it for anything. They like piled garbage on it.
Yep.
It's probably in use now.
Yeah, they're 100% being used. Yeah, I think it was Freakonomics, the podcast, was talking about this, and one of the guests there quoted a statistic that before all this happened, it was either 5% or less than 5% of the workforce was work from home full time. Not counting people that like go in on Mondays and Fridays, work from home or whatever. I knew that it was small. I wouldn't have guessed that the work from home workforce was that small, but yeah, 5% or less.
Yeah. Well, so many people we know because of what we do in
Exactly.
There are a lot of us who, we couldn't have done it 10 years ago.
No.
Or at least it was less accepted 10 years ago, because you actually had to touch things like servers, or people needed to see us in their office to believe that we were working for them.
Yep.
And I think that changed probably 5 or 6 years ago in the technology arena.
Yeah.
And it's not that you never go because it's like an aversion to going into someone's office. It's just you do it when it makes sense, as opposed to having to sit there.
Yeah.
I remember I've been a consultant for a long, long time, and having to like fly to another city to sit in someone's office while they ignored me for 4 days was never all that fun. If we were there doing real work, it was awesome. But I think now that just in general in technology, it works that way, where you can do a lot of work remotely. And it'll be interesting to see what other, like the entertainment industry, you can't really phone it in.
No.
So you can't deliver groceries by sitting in your house. So some things just can't change, but there will be an impact on a lot of other businesses.
Yeah, Fred brings up an interesting point in the chat room. She says, "What are the tax implications going to be if people start doing that, start working from home and deducting things and writing things off? I think we're going to need more auditors at the IRS to keep people honest about that, because that's."
Yeah, in case anyone cares, I've been working from home for 12 years now, and I've never taken a deduction for the home office stuff because, as I've always understood, it's a flag for an audit, because you're sort of parsing up your tax situation. And all it really means is, like say you spend $1,000 on rent for your house or mortgage payment for your house, and you say that 5% of the house is for your work. You just don't pay taxes on that 5%. So when you start doing that math and figuring out what the risk reward is, it's not necessarily there. So that's my thought on it. I mean, I'd love to have an extra $20 in my wallet every month, but is it worth it?
Yeah, we've made similar calculations and come up with similar results. And plus, once you start deducting that to get that $20 off of your property taxes, there start being restrictions on that space, and it also impacts when you sell the house. And I mean, there's just all these ramifications. And I agree with you, the risk versus reward. We looked at it because I was like, oh yeah, working from home, gonna get one over on the state, and no, that was not. No,
the math doesn't really work.
No, and I long time ago, 20 some years ago, locked horns with the IRS kind of by accident. And it's kind of like, anytime they talk about the first day of prison, you go in and you beat the toughest guy up once and then everybody leaves you alone. This was a very small incident, but the IRS came in and they just whooped me and broke my spirit. And so I will never come anywhere near tangling with the IRS no matter what. They've completely cowed me. So that...
It's one of my goals in life is never to have one of those meetings.
Yeah. For me, it was not. It did not go the way that I thought. So I had some military benefits that I did not claim on my taxes, mostly out of ignorance and the fact that the paperwork got lost because it got sent to my parents' house. Long story. But then once I figured it out, I was like, I'd probably get away with it. And then it happened 2 years in a row. Same thing. And so the IRS sent me the letter. Hey, we think you didn't pay taxes on this thing. then it jiggered, and they did it like 3 years after the first one happened, so it had been a while. But I was in the process of trying to buy a house, and if you try to buy a house, your mortgage lender wants to be the number one person to get your money if something happens. And when the IRS wedges their way in, nobody will talk to you about a mortgage or anything like that. And so the IRS sent me that letter, and I called them up, and of course that took many hours over many days to actually get through. And I'm like, you got me. You're absolutely right. I didn't do the thing that you say that I didn't do. I also didn't do it the year after that. Just give me a number. I send you a check. You got me. And they're like, yeah, we're going to wait 3 or 4 months before we get you that number. We're in no rush. We know we're going to. And so so it even wasn't the aggressive, thing. It was this passive. We'll get to you when we get to you. And all of my financial life just ground to a halt while I was waiting for the IRS to do their thing. It was, so I learned my lesson.
Yeah. Well, I know that I try to run some Praxis finances so that I never have to talk to the IRS. And same thing with my personal finances. I mean, I believe that being honest, and it's the way we run this company. I'll do that little plug. We try and be as honest and open as possible, but not having that meeting, that's one of my primary goals in my entire life.
And so far, you're doing a good job.
So far, so good. Now, is anyone from the IRS on the call?
Nothing but love and respect. Mark in the chat room is saying the wheels of justice grind slow and methodically, and amen. That was the case when I was, and I ended up. I was in the process of trying to buy a house. I ended up losing that house because couldn't get the mortgage.
But Mark also put justice in quotes.
So talking about Microsoft, they have been busy. They've sent their workforce, at least the Redmond workforce, and a lot of workforces home, but they're still cranking stuff out. We've talked about how they're keeping the monitoring up on the cloud services. I think last week or the week before, they also released branding for the SharePoint mobile app, which I thought was a nice change. So this is if you're using the SharePoint app on your phone to get to your SharePoint Online. Now, if you're a member of multiple tenants, which for guys like you and I is every day for the past 10 years, and now when you switch between tenants, the tenant can brand that, so it's easy for you to keep track of which tenant you're in. So it's a little something. I like that.
Yeah, it's you're starting to see some more of that consistency across. If you think back a couple of years, like consistency across services, just like what color the sweep bar is.
Yeah.
Silly little stuff, but because the platform has gotten much more sort of level from a technology perspective, you're starting to see more of that consistency. The SharePoint mobile app is one example of that.
Yeah.
And that whole concept of the new home button in there that goes to the home site, and they're really integrating better and better and better, which is great.
Yeah,
great to see.
I thought that, and that was one of the things, especially however 3 years ago when Teams came out, folks like you and I were screaming because it was so painful to switch tenants, and Microsoft's like, nobody switches tenants. We were just ahead of the game on a lot of that, and I think this whole mobile app, when you switch tenants, I think 3 years ago, if we'd have brought this up to Microsoft, they'd have said, nobody needs to switch between multiple. It's you and 3 of your closest consultant friends, and nobody else in the world does it. And now it's ubiquitous enough that's a deal. That's.
I was working with a client yesterday, 6 people in his company, and he worked with 2 tenants.
Wow.
Because he's got a relationship with one of the other companies they do work with.
Yeah.
And so we were going through that, the token in your cookie is pointing at the other thing. And so we got to delete the token, and you got to use 2 browser sessions. And he was quite legitimately pissed off.
Yeah.
I can't put it any other way.
Yeah.
It's frustrating as hell, right? When you think, well, all I need to do is log into this and sometimes log into that, and you just want it all to work.
Yep.
If you're in one tenant, you never run into any of these problems. So right. I think that Microsoft, if they don't believe it's a normal situation, it certainly is in this kind of environment. We have meetings with our clients and teams and things all the time.
Yeah. And
so it's constant interaction with other entities.
Yeah.
When we work projects, we're in different tenants. I think that's the way modern work works.
Yeah.
Right? You're collaborating with people in other businesses, and sometimes they host it, and sometimes you host it.
Well, and we should
I
have
think,
that flexibility. We shouldn't be in the
yeah,
situation where we say, "Well, I would love to have you host it, but I can't figure out how to log into your tenant to do that." So, yeah,
right. And how many times are we, people are saying, can we just switch to Zoom because I can't get this to work.
yeah,
And, we had a long conversation over the weekend on Twitter about this. It's forget the security stuff, that just ease of use,
yeah.
be able to click link and bang, you're in a meeting is awfully appealing. And, we actually have an agenda item talking about some of the changes that are coming to Teams that might help that out.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes you click that link and you go to your own Zoom meeting, and sometimes you just jump into somebody else's Zoom meeting.
Or, some random one.
Zoom has had the worst month ever. Those poor. I don't know who I would want to be the PR person for more, the COVID virus or Zoom, because right now they are about equally hated online. It's
I've been impressed by their response, though. I haven't been following the story in tremendous detail, but they seem to really be taking all this very seriously, and they're
yeah,
actively
yeah,
fixing stuff. Now, they made mistakes.
yep,
There's no debate, but they're admitting those mistakes.
yeah,
We don't see that from all companies,
no,
and they're trying really, really hard to fix what they did that turned out to be a mistake. So
yeah,
I gotta give props for that, because the sort of stonewalling PR approach is not necessarily the right way to go. And yeah, they made huge mistakes, but they need to fix it.
yeah. And so you and I have had a very cursory exposure to Zoom before all of this. I think so. I've seen. So I agree with you. The fact that their CEO came out and said we screwed up, we absolutely dropped the ball on security, we didn't take it seriously enough. Mea culpa.
And here's the plan.
Yep. I was
Here's
I
our
was like you. I was deeply impressed by that. I've got some friends that were furious by it. And I'm like, how can you be furious by this? The guy stepped up and admitted that they screwed up. Nobody does that. That's awesome. And my friend's response was, he's been saying they're going to take care of this for 3 years and they won't take care of it. So the fact that you and I have just kind of jumped in, I think skews that a little bit. But I think now the focus is on them, and I think they're going to have to fix it. And it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and that's an example of a business that has, they've gone, their numbers are crazy too. They went from 2 million users to, tens of millions of users overnight.
Yeah.
And so they're also dealing with all the scaling issues and everything while they're trying to fix their platform. So,
Yep.
yeah, I think they'll come out the other end just fine if they can get past the bad press.
Yeah. And now imagine having all of those issues, scaling issues and security issues, but not being able to get all of your people in one room to try to figure it out, because that's the whole thing. You can't get everybody together.
I wonder if they have their meetings on Zoom.
Well, we could probably just look. We could probably just join them if we wanted to. Yeah, let's find that out.
/Zoom meeting. Yeah.
So you mentioned some stuff, and we're getting near on time here. Do you want to talk about some of the updates that they've made to Teams? I've got some PowerShell stuff, but that can last
Sure.
wait forever. So look at
the Teams thing can be sort of quick, but we've seen messages in our message center. Everybody's going to see this at a slightly different time as it is with everything that rolls out. But one of the things that people really like about Zoom that Teams doesn't let you do is have custom backgrounds, right? So you see my blurred out closet door and whatever. I was doing a webinar the other day, and I was holding up that, you can't sort of see it, a painting that my wife had made, behind me, so that it would look a little nicer.
Yep.
So the custom background effects, there will be a set of backgrounds that you can choose from that Microsoft provides, and then Tony Redmond actually just did a blog post today, I think, or yesterday, showing how you can sort of cheat your way into putting in your own images. But that'll be nice. I think the fact that every once in a while somebody in my family walks by in their pajamas, we can fix that.
Calder Spider-Man pajamas are amazingly cute. I want to find out who his tailor is. I want to get some of those.
I tell you, he is the dude. New experience for launching instant channel meetings. So when you're working in a channel together, sometimes you just want to say, all right, we're typing too much. Let's let's just launch a meeting, and they're going to make that a little more streamlined. I think that's the kind of thing that we see all the time now in the way we're working from home and stuff.
Let me jump in on the background thing. So Lori mentioned something in the chat that I want to mention. So Zoom, if you do a meeting right there in the client, custom background, and that's the thing that you've seen 100 of them. And I've loved how like the band Weezer put out a bunch of Weezer custom backgrounds that you could put. So I mean,
that's great.
Love it. But she mentions, and something that you and I were kind of playing with this morning, is Teams doesn't let you do that right now, but there are a bunch of webcam filters that will let you do that if you want to do that right now. And part of it is just fun and chintzy, but part of it is, like you said, people are having to work from their kitchen tables and all of that, and being able to not just blur but obfuscate where they're at is a good thing for business. So she mentions snap filters. I've not used those, but those let you do that. I have my weight in Logitech webcams, which I feel like is almost an investment now. Like I feel like I should just sell them all and retire and just, whatever.
Now's the time.
Now they're the peak price on those. But the Logitech drivers have this program now called Logi, because I think the company renamed itself to Logi, Logi Capture. And that's how you tweak your camera and how you use it to take pictures and all that if you want to. But there's also a bunch of that stuff built into that, and then that creates a virtual camera that apps like Teams can consume. So if you don't have that in your tenant, but if you've got a Logitech webcam or you want to do the snap filters thing, you can get pretty close to that functionality today, and then you can, you don't have people looking at your China and all that in the background.
Yeah. I mean, I think that to be honest, I thought the background things were sort of silly until the last couple of months. It's changed the way I think about it, because and I've been doing some webinars with Chris Bortleck, who works at Microsoft, and he's already got it, and he always shows up with this really cool background, like he's sitting at the beach, or he's and I'm jealous now. I want it.
Yeah, and so we do a lot of things in the Microsoft Teams tenant, meetings and stuff like that. And those guys are always rocking some awesome background. And they're just like, oh yeah, we got the great background. I'm like, when do us plebes get the background?
I want to be like you special people.
Yep. So, and then so think about that. I could have a custom background where the syskit sign doesn't fall down and is level. Oh.
Yeah. You could actually. Yeah. You could definitely
delicious.
Do that.
Yeah. So go ahead. I interrupted you, but go ahead and
no, that's all right. I think the other two things are both about launching meetings and just having that launch experience be better. Especially when somebody is from outside your organization. You get that screen in the browser when you click on the link that's a little cryptic. Do you want to join in the app or the browser? And if you don't know Teams, you don't know what the right answer is for you. So I think they're improving that interaction so people can just get into a meeting faster. Haven't seen that actually, so we'll see. But that's it. Teams is rolling out. I mean, I think that they've accelerated some of these rollouts because they realize that they're supporting a lot is now.
Well, and now is the time to make a great impression. Like if you can get that out there and get people wowed by it and hopefully make that sticky, that is the thing. And that's been interesting. So outside of the technology field, there have been a ton of companies that have stepped up in amazing ways over the last couple of months. And I think part of it is just altruism. Part of it is that's how they're dealing with this. But I never let myself forget that it is 100% marketing. It is all about maintaining and gaining market share. It doesn't make it bad.
There's a profit here, right?
But it's been fun to watch some of that. So I was talking to one of my neighbors, and I'm like, this is probably the longest time between when I've gotten on an airplane in probably 15 years, because everything that we've been doing is canceled now. I don't think I have an in-person thing. So I think Mark Rackley's dealio in Branson, I said I've told him I'll go down to that. That's in September. That might be the next thing that, but and the reason I bring that up is because Delta and United, a bunch of those other places have said, we're going to let your status go for another year because nobody's flying in 2020. So nobody would have status next year. And so they're doing that. But it's been amazing, to see how people are stepping up. So it's been great. Yeah. So I will save the PowerShell stuff for next week because I know that you and I will be able to have some great conversations.
Oh, you're not going to talk about the PowerShell stuff?
Well, so the
All
reason
right.
I'm not going to, and that's twofold. Number one is to bring you back next week so that you'll be able to talk about the PowerShell stuff. It's kind of a little bait. And the other thing is because you and I in 45 minutes have this Ask Simpraxis thing.
That's
And
true.
so
That's true. We got to make sure we change our clothes and stuff, right?
yeah, so we need some time to prep mentally and emotionally for that. But tell everybody a little bit about that.
Yeah, so well, I mean, one of the things that we're trying to figure out as a company is, we go and speak at a lot of these conferences, and we miss getting out there
Yeah.
and talking to people. So we thought we'd start this series of Asks in Praxis webinars and just see how it goes. We're going to talk today about, ostensibly the theme is when do we decide to write custom code,
Yeah.
and we have a lot of we even have differing thoughts of that within our 6-person company, but I
Yes.
think we're generally of the same mind. So we're gonna sort of open it up, and if you have questions about any of the technologies we work with, we'll do our best. It's a free for all.
Yeah, it is. It's odd trying to figure that out because we definitely crave that conversation with our friends and with our customers and all that. So seeing how we and other companies deal with that is interesting, and that's one of the things that I've noticed. A bunch of conferences have gone virtual. SharePoint Saturdays have gone virtual, and that's another one of those things where I've told myself over the years, well, I would do SharePoint Saturday Nashville, but gosh, I just don't have the time. I don't want to fly down to Nashville, and now Daniel's made it all online, and I'm like, well, it apparently wasn't because I don't want to go down there. So I need to, it's keeping me honest. So I need to submit to some of those things and help support them. And honestly, there's a lot in it for me too.
Yeah.
So I will do that. And then the other thing I wanted to give you a platform for is your Microsoft 365 community content. That's been coming along nicely.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. We've been, Vesa Juvonen and I started talking about getting something going about this at MVP Summit last year. So this has been going on for a while, but sort of in a not stealth mode, but more quietly.
Yeah.
And what we've been doing is trying to get some content, a set of content built that supports people who have been, I think, underserved. For years, years ago, I used to talk about the middle tier, and that was something that nobody liked me calling it. But you've got end users, you've got developers, you've got IT pros, and I'm not sure where that all fits on a spectrum. But there's a bunch of people in the middle: citizen developers, power users, makers, power apps builders. The people who make things happen in organizations a lot of the time, who are not IT and not just end users. So we've put together a whole set of content to start with, and we've gotten that out there. It's actually up on the Microsoft Docs or docs.microsoft.com platform now. So it's real, and I'm pretty excited about what we've got there. And if there's anybody here who thinks that they have some thoughts for that audience, and it's not the technical audience, it's not the heavy duty developers. We're not writing stuff for Waldeck MasterCards. We're writing stuff for, and I said that I never know if I say his name right, but he's like one of the most technically proficient people I know. We're not writing stuff for them. We're writing stuff for that person in accounting who came up with that cool application that supports your paid time off requests or whatever it is. So check it out. Thanks for putting the link there. I was going to try and find it, but you got it.
I did, yeah. No, I think that group is underserved, and there's always that. Whenever as consultants we walk into a customer, they're not going to be a consulting company. Obviously, they're going to be some other business, financial or whatever. We walk in with a bunch of technical knowledge. We know the platform. We know how other people use the platform. We come in with all that. But we don't know their business as well as they know it. And so there's always that trying to find the balance between what the business wants and what the technology will do. And getting those people, that middle tier, that know the business really well, getting them up to speed enough on the technology so they can take that business knowledge and make something useful out of it. That is really a great synergy of skills. So I think that group, the businesses just gain a lot by getting that group empowered. So I'm a big fan of all this.
It's the people who it's those people who really make these platforms turn into something.
Yeah.
And you get IT sort of, and I'm not, I often diss IT, but I won't this time.
Thank you.
Say the technical folks get the thing up and running. They sort of make all the pipes and tubes work, and then the end users are looking for things to do with it. But the real magic happens when people sort of bend the platform a little bit to the needs of the organization. That's the group of people we're trying to help out here.
Yep, and I think that's you're doing the Lord's work, Mark. I think that's good stuff.
Well, thank you, Todd.
All right, well, so I'm going to wrap things up. Like I said, I'll get this one out here pretty quick. If you want a list to any of the links you've heard in this podcast, you can go to toddclint.com/podcast454, and I've got the links to Mark's Microsoft 365 bit and all that. Been a good time. I'm going to go get refreshed, get a little snack in my belly so I've got some energy so we can ask and answer some good questions here in a bit. Thanks to the chat room for everything. And any parting words, Mark? Anything for the folks?
Stay the course. Stay safe. We're all in this together. And it's fun to be able to get together and talk a little bit about stuff.
Yeah.
And have a little bit of community. I think a lot of people are trying to build some of these events to just stay in touch with people. So
just feel it. And we should have said at the top of the podcast, because we probably, nobody listens to the end. They can reach out to you on Twitter at SympMark, and that's SYMPMARC. Mark, and I'm at Todd Clint. But we're both real friendly, real social folks. So if you've got questions or just want to say hey, by all means, give us a shout.
Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. We'll have to do this again sometime. So. All right, everybody, stay safe, and we'll see you in a week. And we're off. Oh, that was good stuff. I do feel bad that we didn't get the PowerShell stuff in, but I will highlight that for next week.
Oh, well.
All right. Well, thank you, sir. I think the audio sounded good. When I listen to it, when I produce it, I'll check it out, but it sounded pretty good. So I think we're good there.
Yeah. All right. Awesome.
All right.
Well, I will talk to you soon.
I'll see you in a half an hour.
Well, hopefully that'll drag some people in,
Yeah.
We'll see.
See you.
All right. Later.
Oh, and now Mark's gone. Oh, I need to remind. Oh, geez. Let's bring that. That doesn't work either. Where did I have? I had Logic Capture. Okay. So I'm playing with XSplit now. For those of you that are still watching, I'm playing with XSplit, saving everything, so that next week I don't get to reinvent the wheel. So which device is that? It's not. Oh, that's the device. Okay, so that's what that was. All right, so that's my name tag. And that's me. And that's that. Okay. So I'm still using XSplit, Mark. I have never heard anything bad about OBS. I think it's fine. I just, when Shane and I were looking at this a year or two ago, XSplit was the one that we went with, but that's not a negative commentary on OBS. I think it's probably fine. Yeah, Matt, I'll be curious how that works for you. I have had pretty good luck, so it'll do weird things, and this is what, let me do this so you can see it all. And this is all Logitech stuff now. So if I want the Logitech watermark on my video, because who doesn't want that, you can turn that on or off. You can put text overlays. You can do things like that. They have some locked bits. I think you have to log in. You have to give them your username, create an account and give them a way to spam you so that they can unlock some of the stuff. But there's other pieces that you can do. And so I can do some backgrounds with the thing. The other obnoxious thing that you can do is they have scenes. Oh, where'd that go? Oh, there it is. There it is. So I've got nothing going on now, but they've got a bunch of these that you can put in. Again, I don't have those locked in. You can also do some transitions. So I mean, there's some fun stuff there. Haven't played with it a lot, but yeah. And so yeah, Mark, the XSplit stuff, I am aware that the problems that I have with XSplit are not XSplit's problems; they are my problems. So I try not to blame it, but yeah. And who knows? Before the end of this thing, I don't know how long it's going to be before they open up barbershops and stuff again. But I may have to shave it. Who knows? Thank you for writing the summary, Lori. You've got 4 minutes. Get out of here. Go refresh your coffee. All that kind of stuff. Thanks, everybody. Hope to see you at the Ask Simpraxis things. We're going to be doing those again. So if you don't make it today, keep an eye out. We'll be doing more in the future. Bye, everybody. Have a good week.